Jai Hind. Having studied the different systems in the human beings, we are going to study today the reproduction in plants. The production of new individuals from parents is called the reproduction. This happens in all living beings. What is the need for reproduction? Reproduction is highly essential for all organisms in order to continue the survival of the species on planet Earth. Imagine an organism does not reproduce at all. After some time, there won't be any organism of that type existing in this planet Earth. That's why there is a need for reproduction. Whether it is a smallest of the organism, like microscopic organism, or the largest of the organism. In this class, we are going to study about the reproduction in the plants. And there are two modes of reproduction. Certain organisms develop their young ones from their vegetative parts. What is meant by vegetative part? It may be a stem, or a root, or a leaf, or anything like that, not a seed. And some others are developing from the reproductive parts. So let us study them in detail. Asexual reproduction is the reproduction where only a single organism is required for the continuity of the life. The various types of them are vegetative propagation, cutting, grafting, layering, budding, fragmentation, spore formation, etc. Let us see them in detail. Vegetative propagation means vegetative part of a plant is used for replication of the plant. You must have seen that when some potatoes are lying in your home, at your kitchen, they might be developing certain white eyes in presence of the moisture. What are these white eyes? These white eyes of them are the buds. These buds can be planted in a new area where they will be developing into a new plant, potato plant. So, these kind of vegetative parts are used for the asexual reproduction, but in case of the ginger, turmeric, etc. also. So, vegetative propagation is the growth of a new organism by using a vegetative part of that plant. And second one is the cutting. A stem cutting is taken and it is planted at a new place. Say for example, a rose plant whose stem is cut and placed in a new area where they develop into a new plant. That is cutting. Grafting. Part of a desired plant is submerged under a layer of the soil, and this plant, small portion of this plant is removed and attached to the another plant where you can have the results of both of these plants together. Say for example, a rose plant which is having white flower and another rose plant which is having red flower can be grafted together. So this white flowered rose plant whose stem is taken, a portion of the stem is taken and it will be get attached with the other plant, and there they will be later on grow into the same plant, they will grow into a new plant and same branch will be having both the flowers on them. So this kind of grafting can be done. Next is layering, where plants like jasmine, where long branches are there, their long branch is taken and it's submerged under the soil by putting a layer of soil, and this soil, there they will be developing into an individual plant. Then they will be transferred to another location. And budding. Budding small buds are developed in organisms like yeast or hydra, where small buds are developed from their body, and when these new buds are attaining maturity, they are got separated from the original organism and grow into a new plant. Next method is fragmentation. Fragmentation is the process of asexual reproduction, where when an organism is broken into small pieces, take the example of Spirogyra, it is an algae and it is in water, and when during any of the accidents, or maybe when a boat is going through the water, it may be broken into pieces because of the movement of the water, or maybe by any of the accidents, and each of these pieces will grow into a new plant. That is fragmentation. And last among them is the spore formation. Plants like rhizopus or bread mold, which is commonly known as bread mold, they produce certain powdery material on them, which are known as spores. These spores are, on maturity, will be dispersed into the atmosphere, and it will be floating in the atmosphere, and wherever it falls down, there they develop into a new plant. So these are the different asexual methods of reproduction in plants. Now, what is the kind of reproduction, sexual reproduction in plants? What are the reproductive parts of a plant? They are nothing but flowers. It includes beautifully colored petals are also there, and sepals are also there, stamen are also there, pistils are also there. So there are 4 parts in a complete flower. That is sepal, petal, stamen and pistil. But it is not compulsory that all of these parts should be there in one flower. In certain flowers, only stamen or pistil would be available in one flower. That kind of flower where only one stamen or pistil is only there, they are known as unisexual flower. Uni means single. So stamen or pistil, only one is there, that's why it is unisexual flower. And bisexual flowers are the one which is having both the reproductive parts, stamens and pistils in them. Now let us discuss about what are the parts of the stamen. The stamen consists of 2 parts. One is a swollen part which is called the anther, and a long tube-like part called the filament. These parts are helping in the reproduction of the sexual reproduction of the plant. The anther contains pollen grains. They are known as the male gamete in case of the plants. And the female part is known as the pistil. Parts of the flower, the female part is the pistil, which consists of 3 major parts: the stigma, style and ovary. Stigma is the extreme tip of the female reproductive part, which is sticky in nature, where the anthers are being fallen. And when the anther is fallen on the stigma, it will develop a tail through the style and finally reaches to the ovary, where the egg cells are there. And the male gamete, which is the pollen grain, fertilizes with the female gamete, that is the egg which is present in the ovary. Thus, a zygote is formed by the fusion of male and female gamete. And this zygote develops into an embryo. Later, it becomes the seed. Now, the seeds are converted into fruits. How do they are converted into fruits? by the ovary wall will develop into the fruit cover and the zygote will develop into the seed. Now, how does this process takes place? It is taking place by the pollination. What is pollination? The transfer of pollen from anther to the stigma of a flower. And two types of pollinations are there. One, self-pollination, where the pollen grain from the same flower falls on the stigma of the very same flower or another flower of the same plant. That is self-pollination. And another second method of pollination is cross-pollination. How does it happen? When the pollen grain of one flower falls on the stigma of another flower of a distant place, that is called cross-pollination. And this pollination leads to the formation of the seeds, as I explained earlier, and that leads to the fruits and seed formation. Ovary wall develops into the fleshy portion of the fruit, and you know, always all the fruits are not fleshy, like mango, grapes, etc. are fleshy fruits, but some other fruits are hard also. How does this seed get dispersed? What is the need for the seed dispersal? Seed has to be dispersed. Imagine that all the seeds are falling near the same tree where it is grown. What will happen? All of them will germinate when suitable conditions come. All of will they grow over there. They have to fight for the nutrients. Maybe the sunlight, maybe the air, maybe the water, maybe the minerals, whatever it may be. They have to struggle for them. And ultimately, some of them will die because of that struggle. So, the dispersal of the seed is a must. That is a nature's law. It is happening by various means. What are the methods of the seed dispersal? They are, one is wind. If the seed is light and it is covered by a fluffy material, feathery material, then along with the wind it flows on, and wherever it is settled down, there they will be forming a new plant. Second method of seed dispersal is through water. Coconut or those kind of plants whose husk is very light, these seeds falls in water, and along with the flowing water they float and goes to distant areas where they settles down and germinate into a new plant. So that is the way in which water acts as a dispersal medium. Another is animal. Everybody knows that the insects feed the nectar from the flowers. While they are sitting on those flowers, some of these pollen grains stick to their body, and when they go to another flower where they sit, and these pollen grains are unknowingly dropped on the stigma, and this will lead to the fertilization. So you have seen how wind, water and animals are acting as medium of seed dispersal. And now we will do an interesting activity to recapitulate that we have been studying in this period. All the students will stand up and move around in the class, and when you are moving around, I will say pop pop, you will say popcorn. So what will be the rule of the game? Pop pop, popcorn. Then in the midst of that, I might say a number 2. Then you will be arranging in your groups 2 each. And then I will raise a question to you related to the topic that you have studied today. So, first member in the group has to tell the answer to the other member, not to the teacher, among yourself. So if the other person is not knowing the answer, then you will be helping them out. So both of you will be understanding that question. Similar way, the game continues with popcorn activity. I might say 5, so that the children will group in 5s and another question will be put up. In the group you will be recapitulate what that answer is. So this is, once you have recapitulated it, we will do the spiral questions level 1 and level 2. Thank you.